Hey guys, welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you 7 ways to do budget macro work for under $10. Now just a disclaimer, I do not do professional macro work. I'm not saying any of these methods are better than using a specific macro lens, because honestly they're not. But if you're a beginner and you want to get into macro photography for cheap, I'm going to be showing you 7 methods. At the end of the video, there's going to be some sample images to see how much macroness, I guess you would call it. Well, the correct term is magnification. How much magnification you could get at the end of the video. So if you want to check out those samples, check them out right now. But let's talk about each macro method. So first off, what you're going to need is a DSLR and a lens. This is just the kit lens, the 18-55. It's on Canon, but it doesn't matter if you're on Nikon or Pentax or whatever manufacturer. The first method is just using the stock lens, nothing else. The second method is using what's called a close-up adapter. You can buy them between +1 all the way to +10, I believe. The one I use is the one that comes with these wide-angle adapters. There's some cheap adapters, they're like $6. But anyways, the bottom part of the adapter is what's called a close-up ring, or a macro ring sometimes. It's basically just like a magnifying lens. Now it has some pros and some cons. The pro is that it autofocuses, the lens will autofocus with it. The con is that you don't get a lot of magnification. Well, with the one I'm using, I'm not sure if the one does like the +10 one. I'm not sure if you can get more with that. But basically, you don't really get that much macro, but it's decent for your first step. Now the third method is using a macro tube set. Now there's a bunch of these tube sets. I'm using the non-electronic ones. These ones were like around $6 on eBay. They sell some electronic ones, but those range between $50 and up to $250. But this is the cheap set, the $6 ones. It works great for what it is. It's actually my favorite way. Next up is a reverse ring. What this allows you to do is mount your lens backwards. You basically, this has a filter thread screw mount. You screw that on the front of your lens mount, and you mount your lens backwards, and that's a great way to do macro. Now the sixth method is using a coupler ring. Actually, I don't have one right now, but it basically looks like this without that lens right there. It's just a little adapter that you mount one lens onto the other one. You just screw it right here. You screw it on one side, and then you screw the lens onto your other one. What most people use is they use the 18-55 and the 50mm, or they use the 18-55 and the nifty 250, which is the 55-250 on Canon. On Nikon, I think it's the 55-200. But yeah, that's a more advanced way, I guess you would call it. And the last method is using this lens right here, the Canon 35-80mm. This lens came in a bunch of film rebel cameras from the early 90s, and they made I think 6 versions of it. The only version that will not work is the power zoom version. But anyways, to convert it to macro, you remove the front element. It's pretty easy to remove. There's some slots right here. Just take them off, and there's some screws, and just remove. You can remove the front element. I don't have any samples of that because I haven't modified this lens yet. But if you look down below, I'll have a link to a thread on my forum that I usually visit on. It's the Canon for photographers on the net forum. It's a great forum, and there's a whole thread showing the examples. These lenses, you can pick them up between $5 to $10 is what the normal price goes for, or you can even get them for free. So some people give them away since they don't use them anymore. But anyways, you take out the front element, and you can turn it into a dedicated macro lens, and you get extreme magnification with this. I believe it's up to 2 times or 1.7, it's somewhere around there. So first up, the first method, just using your stock lens. What you want to do is you zoom it out all the way to 55. Then if you notice right there, it'll show you your minimum focusing distance. And just basically, you get your lens as close to the object as you can, zoomed in all the way, and you'll get a close-up to doing macro work. It's not a lot of magnification, but it gets real close. Now the second method is using the close-up adapter, or also called as macro rings. They have between +1, +2, +3, and then basically just screw it on to the front of your lens. And then from there, it will actually autofocus. So you just get close to your subject. For these type of method or budget macro, you have to get really close. If you want to be farther away from your subject, then you're gonna have to pick up a dedicated macro lens. But for all these budget methods, you just get real close to your subject, and you're just pushing it, and it will autofocus. Let me turn it on to show you. Okay, camera's on. I'm not even sure if it's on autofocus. It's not. And it'll focus. It focused already, but can't hear it. But anyways, that's the second method. Now we're gonna go on to the third method, which is the macro tube set. Basically, these tubes, you mount your lens on top of here. You mount this one to your body. Just unscrew your lens, put it onto here, and just mount it onto your camera body. And now you got the macro tube set. Again, with these ones, you have to get really close up to your subject, about so. It will depend between, like, if you're using the 18 and 55, I would recommend using a 50mm if you have one, a prime 50mm. It's like best for beginners. But anyways, if you're starting off with the 18 and 55, start it off 55, and then if you want to get more magnification, you just put it down to a lower focal length. On the 18 and 55, I find the most useful range to be 35 to 55. Anything below that, you kind of run into issues because you can get so close to your focus on the front element. So yeah, I just recommend that using between 35 to 55, or even down to 224 sometimes at work. But anyways, that's the macro tube set. If you don't want a lot of macro, you can just use one tube, and all they do is they screw off. You can use 1, 2, or 3 tubes. Alright, so that was, I'm not even sure on which method we're on right now. But anyways, next up to reversing the lens. Now you just buy the reverse lens adapter. You can buy them on Amazon. You can buy them on Amazon, on eBay. You just get the size of your filter thread on your lens. Let me see if I can find one that says the size. The Canon 18 and 55 is 58mm. If you have the Nikon 18 and 55, it will be 52mm. But anyways, look at the front of your lens, and you'll see a circle with the line through it, and it'll show you the size of your filter threads. So it's 58. So all you do is go on Amazon or eBay, look up 58mm reverse ring, and then it'll just screw, and then you get to your body. So if you have a Canon, look up 58mm reverse ring for Canon EOS or Canon EF. For Nikon, you look up like Nikon 52mm to Nikon F mount or whatever, and the same to Pentax. Just make sure to check what size your filter thread is, and also to make sure you get the one right for your body. But anyways, it just mounts to the front of the lens, and then you mount it on your body, and there you go. My 18 and 55 is actually modified, so so that's why it looks all hacked up. But anyways, and then the one number, the sixth method, you just put on a lens, and then you buy a coupler which looks like this, except it won't have that element there. Buy a coupler to on what two lenses you're gonna use. If you're gonna use like 1855, the Canon one is 58mm, so you get one size 58mm. And then if you're gonna use another lens that's like 52mm, you get a 58-52 coupler ring, and you mount it on the first lens. All the samples are going to be at the end of the video, so if you want, you can fast forward to see the result. I will only not have samples of the coupler ring because I don't have one. I just have one that's similar. Sorry about that, I dropped the camera. My tripod's a bit flimsy. But anyway, this is the coupler method. Now all these methods, I'm going to have them down below with links where to buy the products. And I'll have them recommended from, if you want to start doing macro work, I'll show you the easiest method. And the last methods will be the ones that are more advanced. But anyways, this is the coupler method. You just hook up two lenses together. And again, you have to be close to your subject depending on what lenses you're using. And the last method is you buy this lens right here, the Canon 35-80mm. You remove the front element. Fortunately, I haven't done that modification to this lens, but just look down below and I'll have the link to the forum where it shows you. Alright, now some other things you will need. For most work, when you do macro work, your depth of field, it gets really tiny. Like f12 will look like f1.2 or something like that. It looks crazy. So yeah, you have to step down your lens. And most of the time you're going to need to use your onboard flash. Or if you don't, or what I would recommend more is to get a dedicated flash, and then you could buy a hot shoe cable connected from your hot shoe to your flash, or you could just use what I use are some radio triggers. Okay, now some methods that I've showed you. What happens with Canon EF lenses is that the aperture is controlled electronically. So when you put on a macro tube set with the cheap one that I showed you right here, it doesn't have the contacts, so there's no way to set your aperture. But luckily there's a trick how to get around that. First, you mount your lens onto the body. So mount your lens onto the body, and then you select the aperture you want to use. I'm gonna go down really small. I'm gonna go down the smallest I can, or let me just go to f22. So you go to f22, right? And then you press your depth of field preview button. It'll be right here on some bodies, it'll be over here. But anyways, when you press that, your aperture closes down. But when you use the cheap macro set, there's no way for you to set down your aperture. So here's the trick: you push down your depth of field button, you hold it down, you press the lens release button at the same time, and remove your lens. Once you remove it, your lens will still be stepped down, as you notice right here. It's still stepped down. Then you mount it on your macro tube set, and you're off ready to go. When you want to reset it, you just put your lens back in, and it'll go wide open as soon as it contacts. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Right now, I'm going to be on the screen. You'll be seeing the sample images. I'm going to be starting off with the first method I showed you, and I'll move on from there. Any questions or comments, leave them down below. Thank you for watching the video.